Hey, welcome back. This is going to be part two of Osama bin Laden. We're gonna get right into it. Again, sources we got Ghost Wars by Steve Cole, very good, and The Looming Tower by Lawrence Wright, also very good. I would read Ghost Wars if you had to read one, but The Looming Tower, I did like it because it was different. It was more like focused directly on Osama bin Laden. So if you're looking for his story, there's also an Osama bin Laden book was released recently, and I have not read it. I figured I was all Osama'd out,
Yeah,
By the
no,
time I
that
got through these two, I was like, all right, I think I get it.
yeah. Like once you're like, I don't even want to hear about the 2000s anymore
No,
or the
I'm good,
90s.
man. I'm
Yeah, I'm
good.
like, I'm good.
I've been reading ancient history. I'm just like,
You
let me get as far
oh
away.
oh you went ancient. Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
went way back. I was like,
Okay.
oh God, this is rough. Anyway, we're getting into it. Part two, Act One, Premonitions. So
Yeah, I love your names.
on February 23rd of 1933, Ramsey Youssef bombs the World Trade Center. He sets off a car bomb, specifically a red Chevy Corsica, in the garage below the World Trade Center, and it kills six people who were eating lunch in the cafeteria. It injures 1,000. We learned later, as in like Americans learned later, that he had the goal upon like his interrogation, he had the goal of causing one tower to fall into the other. And he said whenever he was extradited and the FBI was interviewing him, he said he had the goal, or he said that he wanted to kill 250,000 people because that was, and this is where these two sources conflict, that was either equal to the amount of Palestinians that had been killed by Israel or the amount of people that had been killed in the Hiroshima bombings. So they kind of differ on that. Youssef, for his part, he gets a ticket to Karachi in Pakistan, and then he ends up in Manila. He gets back to Pakistan, and I believe that's where he's extradited
Yeah,
from. But like, wow, before he departs, he gives a letter of demands to like New York newspapers where he calls for an end to all aid to Israel, and he wants the U.S. to cut diplomatic ties with Israel also, and also just generally stay out of the Middle East, like withdraw, let us handle our own affairs, get your big nose out of all out of our
the
our
the
region.
the 250,000 like either being Palestine or Palestinians or Hiroshima. It's interesting because like one of them like displays them as like I'm an international guy. I care about
Yeah,
everybody, and then
yeah.
the other one also. I mean, I yeah, it's interesting because with Ramsey Yusuf, you always hear about that as like that first attack on the World Trade Center, which
Hmm.
you kind of I've always had
Yeah,
assumed it was like all also Al Qaeda, but
yeah.
yeah, but it seems like it's more from what you're telling me here,
Hmm.
more of a just a guy just doing his own freelance terrorism.
Yeah, parallel thinking.
Yeah, yeah,
OBL was a hack. He
yeah,
just ripped it off already, right? And um, some background on Ramsey Youssef. His mother, he was like Palestinian through his mother's side, and he
yeah,
was trained at a CIA supplied madrasas. He was like a tinkerer, like an engineer, and
yeah,
so Steve Cole in Ghost Wars says that a lot of like the plastic explosives and delayed time devices
yeah,
that ended up at these madrasas. He posits that Yusuf might have been fiddling with those. The name of the specific camp is called Caldan.
yeah,
He is extradited from Pakistan by a joint FBI/ISI operation.
yeah.
So this is when Pakistan is feeling cooperative. And during interrogation, it's realized, I think he's interrogated in New York by the FBI, and they come across a business card that he has for this guy, Mohammed Khalifa, who is a relative by marriage to Osama bin Laden. And they
Yeah.
press him on it a little bit. They're like, what do you know about this guy? Do you know this guy? And then he shuts up.
Yeah.
So we don't really know, right? But anyway, the CIA
Ah.
is like collecting intel, and OBL's name keeps popping up. Keep
Yeah.
hearing about this guy. At the same time, 1993, Ayman al Zawahiri, Osama's kind of like right hand.
Yeah.
He starts speaking at like mosques in California, and
Yeah.
there's this other, like, I don't remember his name, but there's a CIA contact who starts warning the CIA about Al Qaeda in Sudan specifically. He's like, you
Yeah.
guys got to look out for these guys. Well, you trained them, so they've got
Yeah.
pretty good training, wouldn't you say? Right. And they've
Yeah.
also got money, and they're also very devoted to this cause. So
Yeah.
take note.
They seem pretty serious.
They're pretty into it,
They're pretty into it. Like it's not like a fad.
It's not a
just like,
phase, mom.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's past that.
they're all about it. Yeah. Then later that year, in October of 1993, 2 U.S. helicopters are downed in Somalia. And they had been assisting the UN as they attempted to relieve a famine. So this is kind of like post Persian Gulf at this point. And the U.S. is like, what else can we do to help out internationally? And so they're like, we can assist the UN in Somalia. And there's like a Somalian clan war is going on. It's not it's framed not quite as a civil war, more of like a clan war, but I don't know when that threshold is crossed. So these 2 helicopters go down, and Osama takes credit for it, but that's kind of dubious from what the books are telling me. Is it's like they had made contacts, and he sent a couple guys. He sent a couple Al Qaeda guys to Somalia while this was going on, and they were not received well. So it's kind of, but regardless, U.S. troops are like dragged through the streets of Mogadishu, and so Clinton orders the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Somalia.
I mean, I don't think that they were like technically in Somalia, probably for like, I mean, they were in Somalia for the UN mission, but it's also Somalia is also the strategic right on the
I see what you're saying. I didn't even think about that.
The Red Sea. So like because we help places that are specific,
that are geographically important.
We'll we'll help some, we'll aid. We'll send some.
Of course,
we'll send some Marines.
We'll send some Rangers Christian to aid. Duty to do so.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Osama he had bought an American T-39, and he was using that plane to smuggle Stinger missile launchers just for wherever he thought they were needed. He's just kind of spreading the love.
That is like when you hear your homeboy have that like he has that plan, you're like, all right, you going to jail.
Yeah, man, this cannot end well.
Fam, I'm done with this. This is when you get up and just leave.
Like, I'm in too deep, man. At this point, you're flying Stingers around the middle, Stinger missiles. You're flying CIA, not CIA made, but CIA not manufactured, not produced, distributed. See, CIA weapons are you're just what
fam,
are you doing?
Yeah, fam. I like the chili relleno here, but I don't need it like that.
No,
so I'm gonna get my stuff to go from now on.
Yeah,
because this whole situation is hot. This is everybody about to go to jail.
You guys are gonna get inspected or something. The hammer of justice is gonna come down because you can't just do this. But apparently you can. So I don't know.
No,
man.
You can.
Everything's so much more fragile than we pretend.
Oh yeah, no.
When you have dudes who are just like, I'm gonna fucking fly my Stingers around, bro. I shoot this thing for fun. All right, you don't get a rush quite like you do when you're shooting a CIA distributed Stinger missile launcher and a helicopter, right?
What do you need? The Stinger? Check outside.
Check outside.
Check outside your door.
Do you also need an Azerbaijani bike? I've got a bunch of those if you want.
How are we gonna put the Stinger missiles on the bikes? That's the thing. Actually, all we can think about that. That's where the real money is. Putting the Stinger missiles
Al Qaeda's on a bike. Mounted artillery, right?
That's what it is. That's where it's at. If people don't talk about that. Because they're idiots. Because they're dumb, but they're not. They don't know what Azerbaijani bikes are. All right, move on.
Not where the real game's at, right?
They don't know.
February of 1944, bin Laden survives an assassination attempt. I didn't look, or there wasn't that much information on it. It was a group of Libyans under this guy Mohammed Abdullah al-Khilaifi, and it was weird because the way it was described, they were just like kind of just looking for him. Like first I think they shot up a mosque where he was known to speak
Yeah.
and then they shot up like a police. They shot up a police station, got weapons, then shot up the mosque, then shot up some other place, then like drove to the street where his home was known to be at, and like shot that up as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but that's the link, is look up Al Khilaifi and see what he's into. And I don't know, it could be Gaddafi for all we know. They're Libyans, right?
I mean, are they like into like are they like Islamists or
I
anything?
think so.
Yeah, he didn't
I
fuck
don't
with
know.
them. He didn't fuck like when it becomes like more like jihadi type stuff.
Mm.
That's when Gaddafi is all of a sudden like I don't fuck with none of that shit
Yeah,
no more.
that's what I don't. And then also he had that. He was pretty territorial. He's
Yeah,
like he was the big dog in North Africa, and all of
true.
a sudden, Osama bin this other guy is gonna come over here. I
Yeah,
that's my spot, man.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
in my corner, you know.
yeah. That did him fighting in Chad in the Toyota
Hmm.
War, what they call
Yeah,
the
man.
Toyota War, because it just featured people driving around Toyota pickup trucks and AK-47s shooting at each other
You never see
in
that
the
car
north part of
commercial.
Chad.
That's what I'm disappointed about. You
What?
know,
You don't
you
see
never
that?
see that car commercial.
Yeah, that's a
That's
great
what
car.
I'm disappointed about. You know,
You could do anything in a Toyota.
Chevy. Watch this. That'd be horrible. Chevy. You know, whatever slogan they have. Ride tough, and then the car explodes. Anyway,
Oof. Jesus. Jesus.
so
Jesus. Okay.
around
Yeah, I mean the Chevrolets they're built Taliban tough. All right, moving on.
built to last, you
Built
know,
to last. All right.
and then it blows up, and then you think it's not there anymore, but it turns out it is, right? It survived that because it's built to last, right? So his family visits, and they encourage him to try to reconcile with the Saudi royal family, and Osama bin Laden refuses. In March, he has his citizenship revoked by Al-Assad, and Al-Assad is kind of nudged by the Egyptian government because the Egyptian government were upset over Ayman al-Zawahiri's raids into Egypt, because that's
Yeah.
also going on, and they're kind of unable to distinguish between al-Jihad, which is Zawahiri's organization, and
Mhm.
Al-Qaeda, which is the broader organization. I think it's safe to say, I don't know how, okay, let me say this. I don't know how distinct Al-Jihad
Yeah.
was from Al-Qaeda.
Mhm.
I really don't know. I mean, it seems like Al-Qaeda is Al-Jihad seems to be made up of primarily Egyptians, and then Al-Qaeda is more international. So that's what
Okay.
I can suppose.
Okay. Okay.
The same year, you see the rise of the Taliban in 1994. Taliban means the Students of Islam. And they first come to prominence around Kandahar, and they kind of frame their coming to power as a populist uprising. Like there was this guy in the 18th century, I believe, who united a bunch of the tribes, and he was also from Kandahar. Or he was active around Kandahar, and so they're trying to like harken back to the good old days or whatever.
Yeah.
And one of the central players in the Taliban is this guy Mullah Mohammed Omar, whom they call the Blind Sheikh because he was blind.
Yeah. There's a lot of blind dudes, dude.
Yeah,
Sheikh bin Baz
blind.
is like, yeah, blind, dude. Blind still. Yeah, a lot of blind dudes.
You get
A lot
that
of
higher sight, man. You know,
yeah. Yeah.
supposedly.
All the rest of your senses
Mhm.
now they're heightened.
You're left to kind of stir in the blackness of your own mind.
Oh god damn, that was depressing. All right.
Well, it depends on what you fill your mind with, I guess. October and November of 1994, Benazir Bhutto, who is the president of Pakistan, is trying to carve out a more international role for Pakistan. She wants to specifically like revive its kind of Silk Road status. So
Yeah.
she's also like harkening back to older traditions, and they want to build like inroads into Central Asia.
Mhm.
But I don't know if how our listeners' geography is. There's something in between Central Asia and Pakistan, and that is Afghanistan.
Mhm.
And so Pakistani convoys roll through Afghanistan, and they start distributing weapons and money to the Taliban, who then take the Kandahari airport from Massoud's forces. There was like one of Massoud's deputies had control of Kandahar. Not anymore.
Yeah.
Taliban take Kandahar.
That's the important thing about Afghanistan is not anything inside of Afghanistan. It is what Afghanistan touches and what
Yeah.
where you can get through Afghanistan. I mean, there's some good minerals,
Yeah.
but it's a lot about people care about what it touches.
A lot of geopolitics.
Mm-hmm.
So they also have to, Pakistan also has to be careful because they're also supposedly trying to prop up Hekmatyar, and he's got control over all these like border madrasas, kind of located around Peshawar and across the border and everything. And they wanted to use those to train insurgents to fight in Kashmir, which
Mm-hmm.
again is that like hotly disputed little slice of land that Pakistan and India both have
Yeah,
claim to. I think it's like right in the corner of the Himalayas.
yeah.
So there's a lot going on. Yeah, Pakistan is playing the game, you know?
It's the reason why the Kashmir is so like important is because like it's like the main river
Mhm.
that like goes through that like it basically like you
Mm,
can control basically the water supply of like Pakistan.
wow.
Like if you basically dam up like
Yeah.
the river that so like that's why they know that both of them know that so
Yeah.
it's like
Mhm.
oh we want this
Or you could cut off the water supply
yeah
entirely
yeah no I mean that's what
if you were so inclined.
dam it up and then like let it trickle out and then kind of control the power
Mhm.
through like power I have like a power I guess yeah it's a yeah that's why it's crazy
Like a hugely a territory so small would be so
so important
hugely consequential.
yeah
Consequential. August of 1995. This is Osama bin Laden's Frank Manifesto, and he starts publicly declaring his hatred of the U.S. He starts issuing all these fatwas against the U.S. He decries al-Assad and the Saudi royal family for the presence of U.S. forces in the Holy Land and all the base deals that have been going on between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. And then the very next month, September of 95, the Taliban takes Herat, meaning they effectively control southern Afghanistan, and they declare their intention to march on Kabul. At this point, it's fairly well known that Pakistan is supplying them. It had only been like 9 or 10 months, but
Mhm.
it's not a well kept secret at this point.
yeah
95 to 96. This is when Saudi Arabia increases its support of the Taliban, and it's initially humanitarian, kind of providing them with like Qurans, food, and medicine, and also money funneled through charities. The Saudi Ministry for the Propagation of Virtue and Prevention of Vice helps the Taliban build up their own internal police force in accordance with the tenets of Islam. And at this point, it becomes pretty clear that both Pakistan and Saudi Arabia are going to leverage the Taliban over Hekmatyar. Like Hekmatyar is not the favorite anymore as far as these two nations are concerned.
yeah
They've now, it seems, switched over to supporting the Taliban. And meanwhile, Pakistan is also publicly denying its role to the U.S. And the U.S. is like, "Hey, you funding these guys?" Pakistan is like, "What? No, of course not." Meanwhile, they're
yeah
doing exactly that.
yeah
So on June 26th of 1995, the what is then known as the Organization of African Unity, now just known as the African Union, they have a meeting in Ethiopia. There's the attempted assassination of Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak at the airport in Addis Ababa
Mubarak
by Mubarak.
Mubarak
Hosni Mubarak at the airport in Addis Ababa by Al Jihad / Zawahiri, because again, this is kind of his organization.
yeah
It fails. However, in the investigation, Sudanese intelligence is implicated. And so now it's like, oh shit, Sudan, you guys are working with these guys? Really? You guys are trying to take me out? What's going on? We have an issue, right?
yeah it's a it's weird to like I don't think about these parts of the world as the place that like Al Qaeda was starting.
Mm-hmm,
Like maybe Egypt, but like I don't think about the Sudan and
mm-hmm.
in Ethiopia. And, soon when we get to Kenya, like all these places that were like, oh, this is like where it was originally like they were like building up their first big what's it called big franchises. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, yeah. Building the brand, right?
Yeah, yeah,
January of 1996, ALEC is founded. And this is like an interdepartmental intelligence office at the fifth floor of the CIA. They had tapped Osama bin Laden's phone and were monitoring his international conversations as a means of tracking his money. And I don't think they say specifically on the like foundation documents that it's like, they just keep it broad and they're like, we're here to take down terrorism. But really, they're just like, they're looking at Osama from jump. And he was like their main guy that they're looking at.
That's the funny thing about like when the FBI or CIA gets onto you, they get onto you so early.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're onto you like it's always like I always hear about like rappers getting like going to jail like for like for crimes and stuff. And it's like they had them 7 years ago.
Yeah.
It's the FBI. They have you 7 years ago.
Yeah.
They're just waiting
Mm-hmm.
until the perfect moment.
Until you really fuck up. And then
Yeah,
they're
they're
like, boom, we got you.
or until you get successful. It's like, all right, well, that's enough of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm. I also like how they're tracking his money. They're hitting him where it hurts. It's like, let's just watch
no,
watch the wires tick,
yeah, that dude's putting Stinger missiles on bikes. Nah, dog,
It's crazy.
you're gonna get CIA attention, fam.
Yeah, man. You can't just do that. All right. Spring of 1996, Timothy Carney, who was the U.S. ambassador to Sudan, he talks with Sudanese President Ali Osman Taha about the U.S.'s decision to close its embassy in the Sudanese capital, Khartoum. Taha is upset because he felt that he had actually taken steps to curb radicalism, and he doesn't want Sudan to look bad internationally. And so he's like, what can we do? And Carney says if the Sudanese government could maybe give them the names of mujahideen who were known to be in the area, maybe you could hand over Osama bin Laden. That would certainly help. And then we could talk about things, right? Sudan says that they would comply if the US had a solid case against him. And at this point, they really don't. Like the US is asking Egypt and Jordan and Saudi Arabia if they had a case, perhaps if they would take Osama, or maybe if they were not even had a case, if they're just willing to take Osama bin Laden into custody without a case, but they also don't have a case, and they're not willing to take him in without, like, he hasn't done anything super wrong yet that we can definitively say this was you, right? So it's all like in this legally ambiguous territory.
Damn, look at that pre 9/11 justice.
Mm-hmm.
Where you needed an actual case to take somebody to fucking jail.
When the system worked, right?
Bro, bro. We went from that to like now we're like droning kids because they Skyped the wrong nigga.
Yeah, it's bad.
The metadata.
It'll get you, man.
Yeah.
Metadata will get you. This gets us into Act 2, Exodus. In May of 1996, pressured by the Sudanese, Osama bin Laden liquidates his assets and relocates his family to Jalalabad in Afghanistan. Many of his men do not follow him because the money's kind of drying up. And so he's kind of left with more or less his core, if you want to think, or just like maybe the dudes who just didn't have anything else fucking going on. So they just I don't know if you think of them as core, like they're the most devoted, or it's just like, I don't have any of the life goals. This is kind of what I'm doing, right?
Nah, man, you're in a startup and you've attached yourself to the founder, and you really don't have any like real business ideas yourself, but the founder seems to keep having a new idea, and you've already believed he got pretty close last time. Got pretty close last time to his startup idea. So
he knows where he's going, and it's just like, you know what? Sometimes it's not always sunk cost fallacy. Maybe we'll really hit something. Around this time, he also
Osama bin Laden, the Steve Jobs of terrorism. All right, sorry. Sorry.
Okay. Around this time, OBL begins to view America as public enemy number one. And there's a tentative alliance going on around this time between Hekmatyar and Massoud. However, Massoud is kind of wary of Hekmatyar. Hekmatyar encourages Massoud to leave Kabul and attack like to the south and to the east, because they're like pushing back against the Taliban. And then Hekmatyar sells Massoud out, so the Taliban take Kabul, and Massoud goes back into the Panjshir Mountains, of which he's so well acquainted with.
Yeah, it's always the infighting.
Yep.
Yeah, that's like the yeah. All right.
This is like a big, but Hekmatyar is like, I don't know. He just seems like such a little pussy, you know? Is like, here he is, like he was the top dog, you know. He was like, I got the ISI behind me, I got the GID behind me, and then here comes the Taliban, and immediately both of those organizations, both those nations broadly, like fall out of love with Hekmatyar. They're like, nah, we're with the Taliban now. And then Hekmatyar's like, oh, me too, you know. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe he was angling, maybe he was trying to eliminate his primary rival so he could, but at this point it's like, no, man, your 15 minutes are over. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can define Hekmatyar as like decision here, by the old Kenny Rogers song. You gotta know when to hold them. You gotta know when to fold them.
Yep.
And you gotta know when to walk away. You never count your blessings.
Never.
While you're sitting at the table. All right, sorry.
Not even for a second. All right. And Hekmatyar, he didn't. I don't know what he did or didn't do. I know he did a lot of bad shit. That's what I do know.
Yeah, I know Hekmatyar. He's an old riverboat gambler.
I think so. I actually think there are probably pretty strict rules, regulations against gambling. It's probably banned.
Well, no, it's a mind state. Being a riverboat gambler is a mind state.
So you can violate religious law in international waters, is what you're saying?
No. Being a riverboat gambler, that's just the type of person. Like when you have a kid,
you're not necessarily gambling.
One of your kid might pop out, and they're like, "You a old timey hustler."
I see.
Just like you just know automatically they hang the kid upside down.
Yep.
Slap the kid like, "Oh, that kid's."
And he like kind of
he like wiggles a little bit and he like shows some dice. He like puts a Blackie mile in his mouth and talks about Louisville being a good town. You're a riverboat gambler.
You know right then. Yep. Isn't life just one big gamble, man?
Oh my God.
Isn't it all just one big gamble, bro? Huh? Right?
I gotta.
We're all gamblers.
I gotta get out of Southern Ohio.
Summer of 1996, OBL is issuing more fatwas against the U.S. from his compound. He names it Khorasan, which is after like a large, I think it's a caliphate or like a Islamic empire centered in Afghanistan in 16th or 17th century, I think. And he is issuing these fatwas. Again, same reasons. Israel, U.S. support of Israel, presence of U.S. troops in Saudi Arabia. At this point, he declares that there is like a moral obligation to wage jihad against the U.S. And so Alex starts to, this pops up on Alex's radar again, and they fucking make that file on him and are going through it and adding more stuff and collecting intel on him. Yeah. This is also around the time when Osama bin Laden meets with this guy Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. It's a globetrotting radical, the uncle of Ramsey Youssef, the initial bomber of the World Trade Center. He's talking about his nephew, and he's bragging on his nephew because, again, Youssef was like a little tinkerer, and he's saying that there's a way Youssef discovered that he could like make bombs out of small nitroglycerin devices. So they start plotting together. And Khalid Sheikh Mohammed passes off his schemes to Osama bin Laden, one of which involves hijacking planes and flying them into buildings. So they start nesting that egg, Yeah,
that's just a wild convo. That's such really a wild, like,
isn't it?
My man is just over here. He like whatever. His wife is bringing out cookies and coffee and shit, and a little shortbread. And this dude's over here talking about, I can fly a plane into a building.
I think there's a way we could really do it, man. I think there's a way we could really figure this out, and it would be
this. And that makes Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in Silicon Valley in the startup world. That's just like that, like old hippie-ish dude he had a role in like Apple He like
Yeah.
he was at Google when it like first started.
He remembers taking apart his Atari and rebuilding it, you
Yeah,
know?
and he has like all these fucking crazy ideas. Like he has money because he's just
Yep.
around, but he just has
Yep.
these fucking crazy ideas that like really you should never do.
You shouldn't do. They're bad ideas, but he
Yeah.
meets his young startup guy, and something clicks.
And that's yeah, it's just the story about startups.
Yep.
This is a social network.
This
Except
basically.
except it's more explosions.
More explosions, more death, more
Yeah.
horror, more big questions of why,
I don't know, big dog. Facebook has caused a lot of those.
You are right. You are not wrong on that count. That is true. February of 1997, Gary Schroen, who is Gary Schroen is like the guy in Afghanistan in the late 80s, and he's still in the Far East Division. I'm pretty sure. I think he's still with the CIA. I'm not sure in which capacity he's functioning at this point, but it's higher than just a field agent who's out there. He's moved up. Meets with
he's a wheeler and a dealer. Sorry.
He meets with the governor of Kandahar, who is a Taliban guy at this point. He details the Stinger buyback program, because we're still doing that, right? You're still pushing that, like, hey, you got those Stingers, bro? Because we'll give you some money for those. Those have gone up in value, as a matter of fact. If you're just with, and the Taliban's basically like, I think we're gonna keep them.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna keep them.
Let me get those back, big dog. Let me get that. You remember when I loaned you that dangerous weapon? Let me get that back.
I don't know.
I feel comfortable with it now.
I like it. I feel like I gave it. I carved my initials into it, and I carved a little sigil into it. I got notches on this, bro. I got notches. You want this? This is used equipment, right?
Most people, they're Toyota guys, they're Ford guys. Not me. I'm a Stinger on top of a Azerbaijani bike.
That's what really speaks to me.
That's
I would have loved it
personality.
if he would have like quoted back to him whatever like Robert Taft said about Lend-Lease, and was like, what is it that Robert Taft said about it? And he was like, getting back war equipment is like getting back chewing gum. You don't really want it back. If he just like knew that and was just like, no. Sherwood's like, I don't really know how to argue with that. I did not expect that throwback when I went to have this conversation.
That's
probably not how it went, but one can imagine. Right?
That's how the guy who wrote West Wing, Aaron Sorkin. That's how in a show that he would make about that conversation.
Yeah,
that's the exact line that the Taliban guy would say to the CIA agent. He would reference of Robert.
I need to write for Aaron Sorkin. All right,
yeah,
let's make this happen.
I mean, all right, Doc. Aaron Sorkin is known as being extremely pretentious.
That's fine, bro. You know who you're talking to? I feel like. So they turned back they said that they're keeping them to fight Iran nominally, which is just something they throw out, which is like, okay.
No, I mean, Doug.
During this conversation, the Taliban offers Gary Schroen if they offer to export OBL back to Saudi Arabia, and Schroen turns him down because I believe that I think again they don't really have a case on this guy, but it at least goes to show that there are tensions between the Taliban and Al Qaeda, specifically Osama bin Laden, right? And he's at this time, Osama bin Laden is in Kandahar, like delivering sermons and funding public works. He has a lot of land again. I think one of the names of his domiciles, his farm, it's the Tarnak Farms, I believe, is the name of one of them. So Masood, for his part, he starts receiving support from India, Russia, and Iran. And Masood is still engaging in talks with Schroen, who wants to enlist him in the fight against Osama specifically. But Masood is like, yeah, I'm down to help. But also, are you really going to let the Taliban come to power? They are also very dangerous. And what's interesting about those three countries was like Russia, India, and Iran is that India's mad at Pakistan and they're supporting the Taliban, but they're specifically beefing over Kashmir. Russia is upset at anybody using the border madrasas because some of the mujahideen being trained at those border camps are ending up in Chechnya. So it's all related. And then Iran and Afghanistan just have that classic. Or they're Shia and Sunni, are they? Are they not? Or is that part of the division?
I don't know. I don't know the makeup of Afghanistan, but I also do know. I think we talked about this before. There's a lot of heroin going to Iran.
I see.
They have a big heroin problem, and maybe I don't know. Maybe that's part of their issue, but I have no clue. I know that Iran and Afghanistan don't fuck with each other, and I just don't know the basis for it. Other than that heroin thing, but that might not be it.
I mean, it's a pretty good reason, kind of poisoning the veins of our people, and we're not really about it.
Nah, in the U.S. we would call you a corporation. That's what we.
Hey, right.
Boom.
Fall of 1997, Madison Albright and Hillary Clinton start speaking out against how the Taliban is treating women, and they're citing all of these civil rights violations, and they're coming increasingly at odds with this guy, Marty Miller. You know Marty Miller, right? He's a top executive of Unicall, and he is lobbying for a pipeline that would run through Afghanistan and connect Central Asia to Pakistan. He had some contacts within Clinton's cabinet, Robin Raphael, who's Assistant Secretary of State for Southeast Asia and responsible for policy toward Afghanistan specifically, and Sheila Heslin, who is on Clinton's National Security Council. And their whole idea is they need a customer for this pipeline if they're going to build it. So they need Pakistan to agree to buy the oil, which I'm pretty sure they would in order to get some international aid dollars. And they're saying like it could unite the country if you build a nation around this pipeline is their basic idea. And so again, in 1997, he goes as far as to invite members of the Taliban over to his house in Sugarland, none other than Sugarland, to talk about it. And there's an article that describes him, like him and his wife, before these guys from the Taliban come over, they had some garden statues of like Indonesian vases, Indonesian like statues that they had got from I think they were like Hindu or something. Either way, in the eyes of the Taliban, they were idolatrous, and so they needed to be covered before these guys came to dinner. Sugarland.
Okay. Yeah, that is just like Sugarland. That is
that's pretty standard Sugarland, I think.
No, that's my favorite thing about like the suburbs of Houston. It's like, you know what I mean, like weird shady like oil deals have like gone on like around here, like like
this is where my uncle lives in Sugarland, and he made a bunch of money in oil. Although it's not Unicall. So
like why
good, as far as I know.
Like why was MBS like building homes in like Aldine? Like, and that was like a thing. Like that was it's on his public little tour before like he killed Jamal Khashoggi. Like
that's crazy.
Is it like I know when I go to the Taste of Texas in fucking Memorial, all the goddamn steaks over there, dog. And I'm like, dude, somebody, there was some.
Who didn't have to wait for a table at Taste of Texas?
Yeah,
MBS.
Yeah.
Probably. No, he just got seated right away.
Look, so some country got there was a coup was planned at Taste of Texas on I-10. I promise you, fam. I promise you. It's crazy. Wild.
February 23rd of 1998, bin Laden announces the International Islamic Front for Jihad against Jews and Crusaders. And it's signed by a lot of top operatives of a lot of different groups. And again, doubles down, like it is your moral imperative to just go out and kill Jewish people and Christians. And that's how you serve God. So let's do it. Right. And a lot of other organizations kind of under his umbrella, like specifically Al Jihad is mentioned in Zawahiri. They don't necessarily want to be global. They want to pursue their own national aims, which in Al Jihad's case is Egypt. But that's another thing that's kind of behind all of this that the CIA is discovering, is that like the the face of terrorism has changed. It's more international in scope, and you're not talking about nations. You're talking about people unified by ideology, and that's much different
Yeah. Yeah.
than what we've known. Spring of 1998, there's a CIA plan known as.
So what you're saying is, he is now the Facebook of terrorism. I just want to keep hammering
Thread this
this
needle.
the startup of terrorism
Mm-hmm.
needle thread throughout this
Mm-hmm.
entire thing. So
It's coming through.
I'm gonna keep pushing it. He's the Facebook.
Can you imagine if we lived to see the day, or if Osama lived to see the day when, like, Twitter, you know how many Twitter followers he might have? If they didn't ban him. If they just
I would be constantly asking them, like, I'd be checking that Twitter just to be
I would look into
who's he
where's he
targeting
at?
today?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, what's he saying? I'm gonna check in on this little
just
dark corner of the
keep
web.
just keep an eye on it.
Yeah, he could probably make some money doing it. Anyway, there's the spring 1998 Trod Pint, which is a CIA plan to capture bin Laden from his bed, and they're like they're arming these Afghani contacts in order to arrest him. They were going to detain him for 30 days inside of a well-provisioned cave while a legal team found a case to indict him under, so he could be extradited to the US. Because again, they're still dealing within the framework of the system. They're like, all right, this guy's a problem and we need to take care of him, and we have our eyes on him and we're trying to figure it out, but he hasn't done anything yet that we have no pretext quite yet, right?
Again, that is not how it works anymore.
No, it's much different. It's much different today. I wonder why, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, bin Laden is traveling around Afghanistan, and like I previously mentioned, some of Al Qaeda and some of the like border madrasas are still operational, and these trainees are in two of the places that they go are Kashmir and Chechnya. And I just thought that it was interesting that we've talked about both of these things on the show in prior episodes, but it's all related. It's all connected,
International society is good and the bad with that big dog.
Yep, for sure. Mid-June of 1998, Prince Turki and his entourage arrive in Afghanistan to talk with Mullah Omar, the blind sheikh, one of the top guys in the Taliban, if not the. Basically, Prince Turki basically try to turn him against bin Laden, and again, who had been like issuing fatwas and leveling threats against the Saudi royal family. Mullah Omar points out that the Pashtun or the Pashto tribal code has restrictions against betraying guests. And with Prince Turki from Saudi Arabia, there's like this Saudi Arabian sheikh, or he might have been a member of the ulema. Either way, he's like a religious scholar, and he's going toe to toe with Mullah Omar. He points out that Mullah Omar's guest, Osama bin Laden, had broken his word by granting press interviews. So do you necessarily need to uphold that provision of the tribal code if he's not holding up his end? Does that then nullify his protection? Maybe you can extradite him. And they're kind of going back and forth. It doesn't end up happening.
Yeah, I wonder if that was Sheikh bin Baz. And like, it's just interesting because I've seen like doing Saudi Arabia in like this episode, you're seeing that like in this society there's like this third say. It's always like a third that's like they like defer to like Islamic law so much.
Yeah,
and like it's a real player in terms of like what they feel like they can and can't do. And like a real thing that they have to actually move around and operate around. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, where they actually believe it, unlike us in the West, I suppose. I mean, I don't believe, but I'm just saying.
Speak for yourself, big dog.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. July of 1998, the CIA operatives kidnap Ahmed Salama Mabruk outside a restaurant in Azerbaijan. They also clone his laptop computer, which is like they have a full roster of Al Qaeda members at this point. And for a while, the CIA refuses to turn it over to the FBI. And this gets into kind of the very competitive nature of intelligence agencies. they jealously guarded their intelligence because it was not only about like, you would think it would be first and foremost they want to catch the bad guys, but they also want to catch a sweet taste of that glory,
Yeah.
and more specifically catch some of those appropriations. And
Yeah.
if their department is doing more of the footwork, if their department is getting more results, then of course they're going to get more funding. They're going to get more shiny Stinger missiles, right?
And I mean, I think I'm not too sure about this, but it's more my thought to be like, yeah, it's also after the Cold War has ended, so people are looking at the military and looking at these institutions that we set up and being like, how necessary are y'all? Like,
Yeah. What
because
are you
we don't
guys
have this,
really doing? I see. Yeah.
and that's so in that kind of climate, maybe I'm guessing that
Mhm.
you know,
They have to prove their necessity and prove that
hmm
they are a public good, but not the whole thing, just our branch specifically.
yeah,
Because
yeah, because we are, this is our department and we do this
Mhm.
specific thing, and yeah, and it's also like yeah, so like the CIA just a lot. It seems a lot less
Yeah,
valid of a thing because you know the Cold War, but you know
yeah.
they find a new thing.
Mhm. It's interesting because it's like a different type of tribalism
Yeah,
almost.
tribalism is everywhere, big dog.
Yeah, it's true. This gets us into Act 3, Retribution. August 7th of 1998, two teams of suicide bombers roll into two African capitals. They attack the American embassy at both Nairobi in Kenya and Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. There are 213 dead, with 4,500 wounded in Nairobi and 11 dead with 85 wounded in Tanzania. Here's the weird thing is, like, in July of 1998, Prince Turki had been talking with the Taliban about the extradition again of Osama bin Laden. Is like, do you really want here? And do you really want this guy here? And these conversations were taking place. And it's posited by Steve Cole, or he's just asking the question, like, did Mullah Omar, if he went as far as to protect this guy, did he know that this was about to happen? And
Yeah,
if he did, would this have changed his mind about harboring this fugitive, or would he have agreed to cooperate and extradite? I'm not entirely sure. As far as like the bomb, the attacks themselves, that was a Al Qaeda sleeper cell that was kind of a remnant of Osama's time in Sudan. Some of the names associated with it as Wadi Al, I think it's Hage. I want to say Hage. It might be Hage. KK
Hajj,
Mohammed Hajj,
Wadi Al Hajj, but that might be
maybe.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
KK Mohammed is another guy. Wadi Al Hajj actually also ends up, I believe, living in Texas.
okay,
So this is very Texas story today, really. And
yeah,
we got three, we got one more coming around the bend, you know.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and this gets international fame for Osama bin Laden. So now, if ever, if they had a case, or if they needed a case, they probably have one now, right? I mean,
yeah.
one would hope. So on August 8th of 1998, very next day, the CIA receives intel that Osama and his top dogs were meeting at this place, Zawar Kili, on the 20th of that month, which Zawar Kili is 7 miles south of coast. So still kind of on the border of Pakistan and Afghanistan. And they authorize airstrikes
hmm
against him. Before this takes place, August 17th, the Monica Lewinsky story breaks. And so now everything that Clinton does is operating in under this giant, pervasive
hmm
media cloud. So on the 20th, 1998, at this meeting at Zawar Kili, the compound is assaulted by 75 Tomahawk missiles, killing 21 Pakistani jihadists, but no bin Laden. This is part of Operation Infinite Reach.
yeah,
I think they attack multiple targets as well. I think they hit a place in Khartoum that they thought was manufactured, or they thought was like for enriching uranium, but it turns out to be just a medical facility. I think they hit some other targets too, but I'm not sure. It's largely considered a failure. It kind of highlighted the lack of communication between the different departments, because at this point you're dealing with like the NSC and not yet the NSA, but like the National Security Council, the CIA, and the FBI are all kind of operating on their own frequencies and not communicating with each other as well as they should. The CIA is on high alert and they're like surging with intel and passing a lot of perhaps too much unfiltered intelligence to Clinton. And there are like executive papers outlining exactly what the CIA could or could not do to apprehend or even kill bin Laden. There was an executive order banning assassinations, but bin Laden could be considered like a military target. And so maybe there's like a loophole around that. Maybe you can figure something out and like maybe this executive order doesn't apply. But at this point, it's like a very sophisticated form of bureaucratic semantics with the end result that CIA officers play this conservatively. They don't want to overstep because everybody is afraid of public outrage or being caught in this being caught generally. More than this, Attorney General Janet Reno, she had approved lethal force against bin Laden at this point, but only if an attack was imminent. And so the question is then asked, what's the time frame on imminent? How do you specifically define imminent or imminency? How do we figure what do you think?
Yeah, because it's like hard to be like, oh, what something could have changed, or because it seems like he was pretty dead set on getting this one off. He seems
Yeah,
pretty
he's gonna do so. He's escalating, you know.
Yeah, like this is right. Yes, I can tell. Like we both grew up during the time of school shootings because we're like, yeah, no, he's escalating. He's ramping towards something.
Yeah,
Like,
he's clearly behaving in a way that like he had that freak out in shop class, and I don't know, man. I'm kind of
dude. He's kind of.
I think I'm gonna start skipping shop.
Yeah, now he's on Facebook talking about he's gonna kill people, and also he wears jean shorts. So
cut off jean shorts.
Yeah,
he makes them himself with scissors. It's disturbing, frankly. All right.
Yeah,
and he's just got such skinny little calves. They're not only skinny little chicken legs; they're also hairy. It's very gross.
My man is pale.
He is very pale. Incredibly
ever
pale, hairy chicken legs in jean shorts
and a hoodie. And a hoodie.
It's like if you're so cold, why are you wearing jean shorts? You make no sense. All right.
You just be saying weird shit like my top half cold. I'm like, yeah.
Okay. All right, dude. Right, always sniffling. Always sniffling.
Just an angry kid. This kid is probably the nicest kid.
Maybe, yeah.
But
okay. Late 1998, DCI of the CIA, George Tenet, he writes a memo to other top CIA officials regarding bin Laden, where he says, "We are at war. I want no resources of people spared in this effort." And newspapers, like American newspapers, disclose, the media generally had disclosed. I don't know actually if I think it is specifically mentioned newspapers. Sorry, let me not do that. Newspapers disclose they had tapped and tracked Osama bin Laden's cell phone. And so he stops using it because he's able to read that headline. He's like, oh, okay. I didn't like this fucking phone anyway. He snaps it.
That's it. I mean, I always like, I threw away my phone. Now they can't track me. They're just gonna get you on a new phone. That's what they. If
you get a new phone, you go phoneless, man. You about that?
Wow,
you think you could?
What a different world. Not today.
Not yet. You know, one day. I imagine one day it will feel good.
Like, you're like that's the same day you're gonna fly fish.
It's the same day I'm gonna wear sandals regularly.
You already do that. You already do that.
No, man, I'm horrified of my feet. All right. But I just need to let go.
Should be.
Right.
As you should be. Keep them locked up.
I try, man. They just fucking stink.
Keep those bad boys locked up. You know what I mean?
February of 1999. U.S. has pretty good intel about OBL's whereabouts. He's on a falcon hunting trip in southeast Afghanistan, I believe in Helmand province, for the Hubara Bustard. I guess it's specific to Afghanistan, and like falcon hunting is also something that has occurred since I think ancient times in like the steppes, which is kind of cool. And there's a bunch of like wealthy UAE sheikhs with him. And there's a CIA station in Islamabad is talking to Langley, and Gary Schroen himself says, let's just blow the whole thing up.
Yeah, they're not gonna do. I mean,
Let's just handle business.
yeah,
Right here he is. We got good intel. Let's do it, man.
Again, they didn't do it, but
they didn't.
But
they didn't do it.
But this is pre 9/11. Just this pre 9/11.
Exactly.
Post 9/11, they would have done that anytime, anybody, anyway.
For sure. There's a bigger problem is that in May of 98, there had been a deal. In part negotiated by Richard Clark, who I believe headed or led for a time the national coordinator. His official title for a time was the national coordinator for counterterrorism. He was in the State Department. In this deal, the UAE had agreed to buy 80 F-16 military jets for $8 billion over a few years, manufactured in nowhere else but the Lone Star State, the great state of Texas itself. And so it's a no-go because it's also like, we don't want UAE to call off the deal. We don't want Texas to lose these jobs and have to lay off these plant workers who are just gonna, I don't know what they would do. I don't know what like laid off plant workers in rural Texas did before be radicalized. I don't know what the pre-internet age was like. I don't remember.
Yeah, okay. It wasn't, 99 was not that long ago because I was, I was alive in 99. So, so fuck you, first of all. Second,
no, I'm just saying, like, my memories of that time are too blurry to, or I haven't read enough, or I don't know what. I don't know what these people do
in 99. Yeah, these people they
go outside.
They got off work, they drank a beer, and then watched King of Queens, or maybe at this time. That's a good show. You fuck off.
No, I do enjoy the show. But my man Patton Oswalt and that bad boy.
Oh yeah, I thought you were gonna shit on King of Queens. I was like, yo,
of course not. Of course not.
What is going on, fam?
Problems. That and Home Improvement.
I'm not a big Home Improvement fan.
I'm not either. George Lopez show. I think that was swinging in '99.
George Lopez. No, I do mess with the George Lopez show, but like it was one on my lap. Let's not talk about this. It's not.
Okay, right on. So closing it out, June 24th of 1999, before a Senate hearing, Tenet explains that they have intel that Osama bin Laden is planning an attack on U.S. soil. And again, he's telling the Senate at this point, they need to be on alert.
Yeah.
So OBL, he finally makes the FBI's most wanted list. The CIA and the State Department begin reaching out to neighboring nations in search of potential allies. There's this guy, Islam Karimov, who is amenable, and he is an ex-communist autocrat in, where is he? I think he's in Uzbekistan. And Osama bin Laden had been funding jihadists against Karimov. So Karimov is open to launching an operation using like Uzbeks to capture Osama bin Laden. And see this around the same time, CIA authorizes Jawbreaker 5. They're going to train and supply Masood's guys, offer him more cash, more secure communications, whatever kind of equipment he needs, listening devices, and non-lethal spy gear. Masood meets with a State Department official, this guy Rick Inderfirth, in October or November of 1999. And Clinton kind of ties their hands. They solidify the deal, but Clinton's like, oh, but just keep in mind that you guys can only kill Osama bin Laden in self-defense. And Masood, he thinks that's kind of stupid. Yeah. And he's trying to communicate to Inderfirth and to the State Department and to Clinton and to America generally that they've got a much larger problem than bin Laden, and that is extremism generally. Like in this instance, this is not unprecedented, but in the modern era, yes, it is unprecedented. They're fighting a hydra here, and this message has resonance with many. And for every one that is killed, two more extremists are born. So
yeah, man. Yeah, well, yeah, it's a. And we're gonna see how that turns out on the next episode
On the next
of
episode.
Hard Fried History, Part 3, Osama bin Laden. Come back for the next episode. Thank you guys for listening to this
You
one.
have to at this point.
You
We
got
we
it.
haven't talked about it yet.
You got it.
We're not even there.
Yeah,
you
we're
know,
99. We know it. Okay. All right.
we're
But,
getting there. Yeah.
thank you guys. We'll see you next time. You can
Mhm.
find me Joshua B. Stokes on Instagram and Twitter, Joshua Stokes on Facebook. Henry, where can they find you at?
Just Henry E. Price. Henry Price. What's up?
Okay. We love you. We'll see you next time. Oh, also, yeah, I'll be at the secret group. Okay, you know where I'm at. I'll be at Eighth Wonder on Sunday. Love you guys. We'll see you next time. Okay. Peace.
Peace.